After watching Stephanie White crash out on Caitlin Clark, I rewatched the Fever game and I have every interaction between Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark and the refs. I know Caitlin Clark said it wasn't the officiating, but she didn't show up to a post-game press conference and was already in the doghouse. And what I think she was probably issued a warning and she was not about to blame the refs for this loss. But it's worse than you thought. Wait until you see this footage. And the last thing I'm going to say is I think I'm figuring out what's going on here. What they do is isolate Caitlin Clark and the refs won't let her play any defense. You're going to see from this footage, they won't even let Caitlin Clark near the defender. I'm not talking about fouling. I'm not even talking about touching. I'm talking about a ref looking right at Caitlin Clark and the person she's defending and calling fouls, getting her in foul trouble. So then when they isolate her, she's already in foul trouble and there's nothing Caitlin Clark could do. Not only that, Stephanie White is subbing her out with 3 minutes gone in the first quarter. Can you imagine Michael Jordan getting taken out of a game 3 minutes into it? I mean, they were up 8-2. Caitlin Clark had 2 points, 3 assists, a rebound in the first 3 minutes. She takes out Aliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark, and I'll go through that footage too. But let's get into it.
Here is exactly what is taking place on the court. The head coach is publicly lecturing Caitlin Clark right on the sidelines. In response, Caitlin Clark insists that she never committed a foul and simply raised her arms to defend. The coach fires back, telling her that if she refuses to take advice from a veteran like Raven, she needs to get back out on the floor. It is incredibly obvious how frustrated Caitlin Clark is in this moment. You can see her shake her head in sheer disbelief, clearly feeling that the entire situation is unfair. She seems to be thinking that there is absolutely nothing she can do when the officials blow the whistle for contact, even though she never made any. Furthermore, she seems to be reminding her coach that she was subbed out with 3 minutes remaining, and the coaching staff refused to review the call despite her firm assurances that she was completely innocent. Let us closely examine the footage. As Caitlin Clark stated, she never made contact with the opposing player. Immediately afterward, she heads straight towards Stephanie White. An official is watching Caitlin Clark the entire time, and her frustration boils over as she throws her hands in the air, completely stunned by the whistle. She is visibly wondering how that call could possibly be directed at her when she never touched her opponent. After glancing up at the arena scoreboard, she remains adamant that she did not commit an infraction. Just look at her reaction. Now, let us analyze the next sequence. If anything, the offensive player is the one initiating the physical contact here. Notice how she leads with her shoulder. Caitlin Clark keeps her hands extended outward, keeping about a foot of space between herself and the ball handler to ensure she avoids a whistle. This marked her very first personal foul of the matchup, and she is visibly arguing the call. As she is subbed out of the game at the 3-minute mark, she tells Aliyah Boston that she never made contact. Meanwhile, Stephanie White is looking up at the screen. The head coach watched the replay for both of these controversial whistles but still chose not to use a coach's challenge. Following those events, the officials make this particular call. They have now whistled Caitlin Clark for 2 separate fouls where she was nowhere near the opposing player. Fortunately, the broadcast provided a replay, because this specific camera angle reveals the truth. She gets completely run over on this play. You can see Megan right there in the background as the initial foul occurs. Immediately after, a second defender arrives and totally knocks her down. If a play like that does not warrant a whistle, it is hard to determine what does, especially when contrasted with the weak calls made against her earlier. For the 3rd consecutive time, she glances over toward the bench. Her expression seems to say that just as she was being yelled at earlier, she had done nothing more than raise her hands, leaving her with no choice but to laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Given the chaotic nature of the officiating, she actually did a remarkable job of keeping her emotions in check. Next, the physical play continues as she takes a hit directly to her elbow. Take a close look at this moment. Despite already being hit with 3 personal fouls, she is the one constantly absorbing the physical contact. She is trying to point out to the officials that she is being struck on the elbow, finding the entire ordeal hard to believe. By this point in the matchup, she appears completely bewildered by how the game is being managed. When Raven Johnson gets whistled for a foul, she lowers her head and clenches her hand into a fist, visibly infuriated by the officiating crew. The questionable calls continue, as seen in this sequence involving Sophie. The pattern simply does not stop. Examine this play closely and try to explain how Sophie Cunningham committed a foul here. Finally, look at what happens to Raven Johnson. The offensive player clearly trips over her own feet and loses her balance entirely, yet the officials still somehow call a foul on Raven.
But we got to keep sharing these videos because Caitlin Clark can't stand up for herself. She'll get fined, and then they're going to say, oh, she's saying the refs are the reason we lost. But we have platforms where we could actually call it as it is. Call out every single foul. And if you watch this channel, that's what I do. I'm not here to yap about something that didn't happen. I'm here to give you every single call of every single game this season. So please share this video and do it for Caitlin Clark, because she does not have a voice of her own. She will get hated, and they'll say all she's doing is whining, complaining, blaming the refs. But this is obvious. So get this video out there. This is absolutely crazy. It's disgusting. I really hope that they change, but it is not looking good.